So hi everyone. I'm excited to hear that a lot of you have done some branding work, some marketing fundamentals, and some of the kind of foundational work that it takes to be thinking about how to then put all that into the digital space. So I was given 10 to 15 minutes to teach you digital marketing stuff. I won't. But I'll give you some context. And I think between the three of us, we can answer a lot of questions that come up. So the first part of any kind of marketing, whether you're talking about traditional marketing, which I would call, quote, non-digital, if there is such a thing anymore, really, and then your digital content is who is your customer. So for all the folks in here who've done some marketing work and have your own business, do you have a good idea of who your customer is? You feel okay? Anybody in here think everyone's your customer? No, I hope not. Good answer. So in digital marketing, you want to start with really understanding who your customer is. And it's critically important to think about them first with demographic information. So in this example up here, we have Samantha. This is a game example from a company that looks at getting people engaged in video games. And they know her name, her gender, identity, her age, her education, occupation. They know marital status. You know the facts that you might know about somebody, those things that they don't really change too much. And they have that information to kind of set the context for the kind of person they're trying to connect with. In digital marketing especially, it's important to understand that because then that's going to map to the different ways in which someone's going to actually communicate online. So which tools, which platforms are they going to gravitate towards has a lot to do with age, but also a lot to do with their influence circle and who else is using those tools around them. So for example, there was a period of time when Facebook first started that it was primarily young people because it was started as an education environment. Stayed primarily young for a while, but the fastest growing demographic on Facebook now is senior citizens. Why is that? Free time. So there's a reason, right? Family connection, right? And so do you know why someone's in a particular platform or using the web in a certain way? And what does that mean for you? Another really great example about that is mobile. How many of you have a target demographic of a younger audience? Let's say between 16 to 25. Anybody? And so the reason why is outside third-party data is showing that these young people are using their mobile device for everything. And the reason why this is particularly important, say, in higher education, is they're actually looking at and exploring and applying for colleges directly from their mobile device. They never once look at a desktop device. So knowing that demographic information and being able to match that up with demographic trends, especially in the digital space, lets you know, okay, do I need to be mobile-oriented? Do I need to be desktop-oriented? Do I need to be in both? It might help explain why your traffic is coming from where it's coming from. So this part is really important. We also have to think about what motivates people, right? There are different motivators for, say, a college student in the things that they're going to do versus, say, someone like me who has a daughter who's a college student, right? I'm going to have different things that I'm going to care about. So just like everyone in here is at a different life stage that has different things that are going to matter to them, the same is true for your target market. And based on that, that's going to help you understand what's really important to them and how you can step into that space and provide them with what they might need to help them with the things that they're concerned about at that time. So knowing what they are motivated by. Knowing behavior. So in this example, they talk about, because it's about games, what is important to her about gaming? What does she like about gaming? Well, what do I like about food, right? What do I like about cars? What's important to me If I had a baby, what did I care about in looking at a car versus when I no longer have one and I now live on a dirt road in Vermont, right? What are the criteria of the car versus when I have more money and I'm not living on a dirt road and maybe I'll really get that dream Mini I always wanted. Who knows? I don't think that's ever going to happen. Then we have things like problems or pain points. And this is where marketing really can step in, where your business can step in to help someone, right? For me, marketing is about adding value. It's not about selling someone something that they don't need. It is about adding value to their day, supporting them in what they need when they need it. So you can think about all sorts of different ways. For example, these workshops are marketed to you, and you take advantage of them because they're hopefully solving a pain point for you, hopefully. Adding value to what you're trying to do, supporting you in the work that you're doing, providing knowledge, right? So knowing that about your target market, really important. Having an idea of, okay, let's put a face to our target market. In this particular example, what we call this really is a buyer persona. So this whole thing right here is a biography of our primary target market. Putting a face and ideals to the person that we want to connect with. So that when we write our content, when we think about all the things we need to be thinking about, we have them in mind and we can speak to them. It is a fictionalized representation of who your target market is and helps you stay on point. And then through surveys, through focus groups, through actual interaction with your client, with your target market, with your customer, whatever words you want to use, you can find out things about them. So in this example, it's real quotes. Let me ask them, so how does my car help you? What do you like about the car? What's great about Toyota? Or something like that. They tell you what they care about. In the web world, you can do something really simple, which is a 2 or 3 question survey that pops up, and you say, why were you here today? What were you looking for? And were you able to complete what you were trying to do? And you're getting their feedback, right? So if you can get that information, you can actually respond to the needs of your market. Make sense? Anybody in here do this kind of in-depth thinking about your target market outside of, say, demographics, but really start thinking about who they are? How many people have done that? Outstanding. Very good. There's a digital marketing firm named HubSpot. Anybody hear of them? I see some. Excellent. They do the buyer persona work, right? So you can actually grab templates from them. They're really awesome. And if you're interested in that, HubSpot.com. It's a really great support for that. Yeah.
How would you spell that?
Hub, H-U-B, spot, S-P-O-T.com. So this is going to load as I talk a little bit, but when you're in any marketing you do, you have to think about what content are you creating. In digital marketing, this is particularly important because you have 3 main channels that you have to think about. So you have to think about those things that you own and you have control over. What that means is, I own my website, I've paid my hosting fees, I have control over it. Unless the internet goes away or my hosting company dies or Amazon Web Services stops working, my website is there. What content am I going to put on my website? How am I going to engage with people on my website? As a matter of fact, what's the actual purpose? What's the reason why my website's even there? So if you build a website, will people just come? No. Then there's email marketing. How many of you use email marketing? I just heard a pitch for some email marketing right here, yeah? So also own content. You own that content. You reach out directly to your customers with messaging that might be helpful and re-engage them or get them to take advantage of an offer. So you own that. You might use a third-party platform to help you do that. And then there's social media tools. The one caveat about social media tools is it's kind of like renting. Your website is buying your house. Social media tools are renting because you don't have any control over the interface, and you have no idea what they're going to do and how they're going to change it. And they can change it at any time. So is there anybody in here that has all of their has no website and does everything with Facebook? Anybody? Oh, good. I like that. Because, you know, you're putting stuff into a space that you don't own. It's your content, but somebody else owns the framework. So you have to be thoughtful about how you use those social media tools. Then, if we can talk a little bit about paid. So paid is paid placement of your message. In other words, advertising, right? How many of you are engaged in advertising right now? Anybody? Okay, not as many people as probably should be, actually. Anybody in particular doing online advertising? Some fewer, okay. Out of curiosity, those of you who raised your hand, what kind of online advertising are you doing? Front Porch Forum, okay. Anything else? AdWords? Yeah. AdWords, okay. Facebook, promoted posts, sponsored posts, or advertising?
Promoted posts.
Okay, nice. So the paid placement of your message means you have some control over where your message goes, but you're paying someone to put it there. And in our world today, in digital, that means Google AdWords. That means advertising through social media channels. So both Facebook and Instagram do sponsored posts, promoted posts. Twitter is doing that now. LinkedIn, if you have a business-to-business network, really important. Snapchat, kind of, in some interesting ways, depending on how young your target market skews. YouTube, of course, because that's a Google product. So Google being a media company, you have a lot of places where you can advertise there. Then you have things like local, like 7 days, right? So anybody here use 7 days? Okay. Because from an advertising standpoint, you get packages for print, you get packages for online media, for banner ads, for all sorts of things. And so your local media companies can actually be pretty good if your target market's right locally. And so there's ways that they're doing print and online or digital at the same time. So it's important to think about that, and it's also important to think about mobile delivery of those ads too. And then we have earned. This is the free, sometimes people might call it free advertising, which makes me crazy because advertising is not free. But this is your public relations. This is when the Burlington Free Press writes about you in the Business Monday. This is when 7 Days does something and writes something, or WCAX does something, or you get on the 30, right, and you talk about what you're doing. It's also this whole world here of social media when someone else shares your content for you. So can you get others to talk about you? Can you get someone who influences other people to talk about you, write about you, comment on your stuff, right? So making your content so engaging that the people who see it want to share it with everybody else. And so that's a big component of this world of owned, earned, and paid. Make sense? Anything surprise anybody in there? Is it all like, yeah, we knew this, Elaine? The devil, of course, is in the details. Most importantly is, are you as a business, as a startup, as an individual, having a strong call to action on your digital content? Are you getting people to actually do something? E-commerce is easy, right? We know what we want. We want you to buy my stuff. Excellent. So everything should be about buy my stuff. Here, go look at these great things. Put them in the shopping cart. When you forget that you put them in the shopping cart, let me send you an email to go back to the shopping cart and buy my stuff. So that makes sense. What happens if you're not an e-commerce business, though? What are the things that you want people to do? Do you want them to, I've got some examples up here, like download an app. Do you want them to sign up for something? Sign up for an email, sign up for an event? Do you want them to do something crazy and pick up the phone and call you? Yeah, that's good times, right? Because you can do that, especially with mobile and the use of mobile. Have you enabled If you're even doing AdWords through mobile, are you making it so that your phone number is clickable so someone can click that and call you right away? Because usually in mobile, they're looking for something right now. And can you be the person to help them? So will they call? Share, right? Everything about social media is, oh, share this, share this. Well, how are you going to get them to share your content? Why not ask? Maybe, this also could be pretty crazy, you want them to come to your store. You want them to actually come in and buy something or interact in some way. You might want them to join a group, like join SCORE. You might, as a nonprofit organization, you might be looking for people to donate. That's an important call to action. And are you doing that kind of content and driving people to do that? And of course, again, in the social media world, it's all about follow me, like me, spend time with me. And so are you asking for people to do that in a way that works for them? So these calls to action, I think, are one of the keys that a lot of people forget about. They put their content out there, and they're like, here's my really awesome content. Yeah. But then I'm not actually asking people to do anything. I'm not asking them to take any kind of action. And I'm not actually tracking if they're doing the things that I want them to do. So, so there's best practices here. Part of this is being able to measure how you are actually doing. So a lot of you are using digital tools. A lot of you are doing some advertising. How many are you looking at your web analytics data? How many of you are looking at it and know what it means? Okay, good, awesome. Because that part is, if you have those strong call to actions, are people coming to your website and actually doing what you want them to do? Are they taking the path you want them to take? And if you are, that's great, but without measurement, without looking at that, you don't really know. So part of our best practices are the tried and true things that don't change. I do not care what you're talking about, whether you're talking about a brochure or you're talking about some really cool mobile app. Clearly define your target market. Know who they are. That's not going to change in marketing. I've been doing this a long time. That's the bedrock of what we do. Meet your customer where they are. If you know who your customer is and you know what tools they use and you know what they're comfortable with, then you know that 10% of your customer group needs something in print. Okay, there it is. 50% want stuff on a desktop, and the rest want mobile. Guess what you get to do? All of it. Yay. It's happy fun times, right? But you have to be where they are. They're not going to come chasing after you. You have to be present for them. If you're going to do advertising, make your advertising relevant to your target market, because then you can measure your success a lot better. It's a lot of money to spend on advertising today. If you cannot measure if it's successful or not, then that's not a good thing. You could lose money like that. It's not good enough to I feel good about the ad. No. You want to know, does the ad actually work? For those of you using Google AdWords, you can see if somebody is actually converting. You can actually see how much did that ad cost me, how many people clicked on it, and how many of those clicks actually resulted in a conversion. If you're not doing that in AdWords and you're just feeling good about it, then you're spending a lot of money for no reason. Create engaging content. So I would say that is probably the biggest challenge in digital marketing today. Your website needs to be fresh continuously. If you're doing social content in social platforms, that has to be fresh continuously. It means spending a lot of time on these tools and creating content that is measured, focused, thematic, with strong calls to action. Helps with your search engine optimization, helps people find you, right? Helps people get excited about what you're doing. They look forward to that Instagram post of the puppy, right? And you're able to keep them coming back and keeping them engaged. It takes a lot of work to just have a good content creator. somebody who writes well, somebody who knows how to do video, and somebody who can take really good pictures. That is a job. That's not like the add-on job. That is a job. And that's really important. I would say be responsive, and I mean that in all sorts of ways. Respond to them when they post to you on social media, especially if you're using social media as kind of a customer touch point. Depending on your audience age range and activity level, they may expect that if I message you in Facebook, you're going to respond to me now. Right? Doesn't matter when. It's like I sent it, I'm waiting. Come on. Right? Same way with phone, right? Some people feel, and more people are looking for instant gratification. But I also mean be responsive in a technical way, which is your website mobilely responsive? So responsive web design. Do you have a mobile face to your business? Because mobile use is going crazy. And depending on the demographic, predominant, most of your traffic could be coming straight from mobile. And it's going to keep moving. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. Are you mobile ready? Very important. Less is more. So I just said write a lot of really great content, but make sure your quality is good. Better to do less and make it really awesome than a bunch of not so much. So definitely be thinking about that and be there to help solve the problems of your customer. How are you there to help them? Because then the more value you provide, the more often they're going to come back to you for the services that you provide. Right? It's an important, very important part of what I see not just as digital marketing best practices, but as marketing best practices. So with that, I just want to do a couple of caveats. If you're thinking about digital marketing, you have to be very strategic about it. Very important. And you have to think about all of these platforms in an integrated way. So for example, if you're going to be doing content around a particular event, then you have to think about, okay, first I need to have an event page on my website. And if I use Facebook, then I should probably create an event page in Facebook. I should have those driving people to the same kind of landing page. I should have them look the same. I should have the same branding and same content in there. Then maybe I'm going to do an advertising campaign to drive people to my website to sign up for the event. So the language in my ads, whether they're visual ads or straight up Google AdWords, needs to mirror what I'm trying to do on the website. And then maybe I'm going to do an email campaign to past customers to tell them about the event, and I'm going to drive them all to that landing page. And then I'm going to get on the 30 on WCAX, and I'm going to talk about the event. I'm going to use the same language. I'm going to use the same words. I'm going to have the same visuals, right? And then we're going to, day of the event, we're going to Instagram stuff. We're going to have a hashtag. We're going to have a lot of fun. And hopefully we're pulling in that Instagram content onto our website so people can see it. That's what I mean about being really thoughtful about content. If you think about it, you can see why this takes a lot of work. Right? It takes a lot of work and a lot of planning. Done well, it's really amazingly exciting and dynamic, but it really takes planning and thought. The other thing I will say when it comes to social media tools, you can't just make something go viral. And you can't assume that because you don't have a Twitter account today, that if you get a Twitter account tomorrow, everybody will see your tweets. Right? So social media content, like search engine optimization content, takes time to build. It's a long-term strategy. Advertising is a short-term strategy. Right? Advertising gets people going, and your social media content and your search engine optimization content, that's in the long haul. So think about it like that. I think with that, let's open up for Q&A.
So I have a current website for half of my business, which is the majority of what I'm doing right now, and I'm expanding services that I offer currently. So that's why I'm here to kind of build that part of my business. And what I'm trying to decide is whether or not I should keep those two things merged in one website where there's, sort of separate departments, if you will, what I do, or if I would want two different websites and advertisements. part of the issue is I don't want to advertise for part A that I already have, because I already have too much business there. Does that make some sense? So it's really part B that I'm building. But then I don't want it to look like there's two of me. You know what I mean? I want it to be unified in terms of my professional presentation.
How closely linked are these two things?
They're fairly linked. So I'm a psychologist in private practice. I offer mental health services, but I also do consultation. And it's the consultation, the sports and performance psychology part that I'm building. So it is unified under sort of all of my training and professionalism and experience, but I don't want to advertise one part of it. You know, did you see what I'm saying? I don't want to build that part of my business at all.
I don't think that's a problem, and I don't see any reason to separate them. I think you can certainly promote the piece of your business that you're trying to grow.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're ignoring the other, because people are going to come in and naturally see both.
Right.
So I don't think there's a problem there, and I don't see any reason to separate it.
I agree.
Yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is your practice,
Yep.
and you can always refer someone. If you are full in your practice, you know, I'm sorry, I cannot take on another client. I'd be glad to refer you. Hopefully you get a kickback for that, for doing that to the right people. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's still you. You are the core of your business.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's
I am.
one website, you know, a little segment about it, you know.
And that's how I have it currently.
Yep, that's fine.
And that said, if you said you are doing this service that you have now, and then you were gonna sell jewelry that had nothing to do with that,
Completely
that
different.
would be completely different.
Completely different, right.
Yeah.
And I would also say that what you're talking about there, the fact that you have private practice lends credibility to you as a consultant, right? So you can just raise and elevate the level of the content about the consulting work, and you can use advertising methods or other promotion methods to focus on that,
Yeah.
or email marketing to focus on that part of what you're doing, and just not aggressively promote the other part. Yeah.
Great question.
We have an appliance repair business, and historically, we've advertised through the old yellow books, yellow pages and all that. We don't have a website, and that's why I'm here.
Okay.
So I'm kind of wanting to find out how we go about getting a webpage.
There are a lot of different ways to do it. My short answer, based on my experience and what I would recommend, is something that, I mean, I use WordPress a lot, pretty much for all the websites that I build for clients. I build them on WordPress. That said, it can be a little complicated because you need to get hosting and you need a domain name, which you would need anyway, and you need to have somebody set it up for you. There's also Squarespace. Super easy to use. It's a very low monthly fee. You can get it set up in a day very easily in a couple of hours. And you can do it on your own. So if you are looking for an all-in-one DIY option, I don't recommend the ones you see on TV, Wix, Weebly, anything like that. Squarespace is really the one that's stable, well-supported, well-built, attractive, up-and-coming, and I think will stick around and is a good option. If you wanted something, there are some limitations. So for what you're talking about, I think it would be fine. And there is an e-commerce feature as well. If you wanted something that was like membership sites and you wanted super custom design and all of that, it would go with WordPress.
Now, what about designing your own page?
Visually, they have a number of really attractive themes that you can just plug your content into. If you would like guidance on what to put on the website, then, you know, that's where any of us would be able to help with that, to help you work through what should be on your homepage. What is, you know, where do you want people to go after they come to your site? What's on your about page? What are your services? Those types of things, more of the strategy piece.
Yeah.
And then you could take it from there.
And definitely starting from scratch is, the important part is you know who your audience is. You know who your customers are, but you also need to be able to grow new customers. And that new customer acquisition, how are people looking for appliance repair today versus how they might have looked when you first started the business? And so there's some low-hanging fruit that you can do right away that even without a website might be really helpful if you haven't done it already. And that's a Google My Business page. If you do that enough can kind of get you started if you don't really have anything else.
And then the other thing I would also say, that if you're looking for someone to get you started and you're not sure how to get there, and you're not quite ready to pay a lot of money for somebody to help you do that, student interns can be really helpful in that space, especially from Champlain College.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of on that vein, I actually have a website that I use, and the company that I use to build it from, they've been promising that they haven't been able to do a responsive webpage. It's kind of an older, like
Okay.
years ago, before the whole mobile revolution came. They actually started charging and saying that we're really excited, we're offering this mobile site, and started charging extra for it, but it's been like 6 months and it hasn't happened, so.
Run away.
Well, and I have read that when you switch from one company to another, that there can be a problem with the domain name, like if I don't own the domain name.
Do you own the domain
Not
name?
even sure, like if they'll give it to me, or I did it through the.
Right, and so, yeah, the first thing is to check and see if you actually own the domain name.
Yeah.
My concern is if I don't own the domain name.
So you'd have a few options possibly, depending on who this company is and what their policies are. You can keep the domain with them. I mean, ideally, you want them to transfer it to you so that you own it, if they in fact own it. A lot of companies will register a domain for the client
Yep.
with the understanding that the client owns it. So check and see what the situation is first. If they won't release it, and they are a domain registrar, I don't know the details, but you could always have a website that is still attached to this domain name. It's not ideal, but if you really don't want to lose this, there are usually ways around that. Otherwise, you can choose a different domain name
And have a permanent redirect.
and have a permanent redirect, yeah. Right, so your domain name, you actually tell it what hosting server to go to. So it's kind of like your address is this, and this is where you live, so all your mail comes through here and goes over there.
Slows the process.
No, not at all, not at all.
But if you do have too many redirects, like if you had to go through that multiple stages, then that will affect your SEO. So you don't want to have too many redirects. But
But one redirect should probably.
No, that's fine,
No.
totally fine.
Something else you should bring up, and that is the registrar, if you can prove that your company
Yeah.
is this domain name,
Yeah,
and the host, the firm that you're working with won't release it, you can go to the registrar and appeal, and they will most likely transfer the domain to you.
Yeah.
now, one thing in that transition, if you do in fact own it, and, you want to go from HostGator to HostMonster or Bluehost or whatever, there is going to be a lag time. So if you have clients or if you have customers, you're going to want to notify them.
Yes.
Your site's going to be down for about 48 hours. Do it on a Friday. Unless everybody's going to be buying stuff from you on a Saturday or on the weekends.
Right.
Do it on Friday afternoon. You will lose your email. Your email, anything that is not downloaded is going to go away. You're also not going to be able to access it, depending on your integration. You can have a lot of.
depends on a lot of factors,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of communication issues. So make sure that you go ahead and tell everybody well ahead of time. Tell them a week ahead of time. The site's going to be down for maintenance. They don't need to know the real reason. But also the day before. And just, and be prepared. I mean, and you'll.
During the redirect, if I do go the redirect.
and it may not, it depends
No,
on,
that's
yeah.
if I.
If you actually if you do own the name and the domain name, and you just want to transfer it to a new hosting company. But you will sit there, you're like, why don't I have any email? Oh my goodness, what's going on? They're working on it. But yeah, it's a frustrating process, but
Okay, glad you brought that up.
totally possible.
We get used to everything happening really quick because we've lost our understanding of things take some time, but a transfer is just of that kind of nature actually does take some steps. And it's actually normal for 24, 48 hour lag time in some of those situations. So it's not a panic-worthy event.
Right.
Yeah.
Good to know, thank you.
Yeah.
You have a question over here?
Yeah, I was wondering about why you wouldn't recommend like Wix. I don't know how to do that.
No, they're
Well,
not.
I would say no, to Wix being better for SEO.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wix is good for Wix's SEO.
Mm-hmm.
It increases, how great they are. But as far as you, no. And everything on their site is all branded, you have watermarks and you have all these limitations.
Oh, okay.
So.
And there's also, in some of these builder sites that you see on TV, you have to read the fine print. Who actually owns the content?
Yeah.
Yep.
If you put your content up there, are you releasing the rights to it? Can you get it? If you write blog posts, can you download them and move them or not?
Right.
So,
WordPress can work too.
Yeah.
And a lot of it depends on your business and what you're trying to do. So I have students who are creating professional digital identities online. So they're actually like, who am I? Here's my blog, here's my portfolio, here's my stuff. And some of them are using Squarespace. Many are using WordPress, the free version, and playing around with it and learning that interface. I have several who did the Wix thing. And from a user interface design, it's like drag and drop, and it's really easy. And bang, I have a website, and I'm really excited. But from an SEO standpoint and other things, it doesn't work so well. So be thoughtful about what it is you're trying to do and what is that you want this website to do for you as you decide what platform to use.
and one thing to add, you mentioned the free WordPress. There are two types of WordPress.
Yeah.
There's WordPress.com, which is free and hosted by WordPress, and there's WordPress.org, which is what we use when we build websites that you have on your own server, and it's yours. It's just software that you download. The only difference, well, there's a few differences, but the .org is way more flexible than the .com. .com is free, hosted by them. So there's pros and cons to both. If you have like a personal blog that you're not looking to make money on, the .com is fine.
Yeah, yeah,
But if you're running a business, I wouldn't put it there.
yeah. Yeah.
I got a couple things. So, I run an e-commerce business and been doing it for a number of years. I've had over $2 million in revenue, but my problem is I sell firearms.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
There you go.
Oh, he's one of those.
Anywho, I'm
Some
all
challenges
these
there.
legal- Okay, so I have to clear that air there.
Right.
But my target demographic is between 18 and 35.
Right.
Okay, and that target demographic happens to use a lot of social media.
Yes, they do.
That social media happens to ban a lot
Yeah,
of advertising.
no guns
Yeah.
for you.
So,
Even content, not just ads,
Yeah,
but
everything,
content.
everything associated with. So it's really hard
Yeah.
for me to advertise for that. And you guys can use this for anything. I mean, firearms, but just I'm looking for some like guerrilla advertising tactics to reach an 18 to 35 market that is outside of the realm of social media. Is there one? I don't know.
It's really crazy, but I think I could tell you what it is.
Go ahead.
It's really off the mark here. The mail. No, actually, don't laugh. And well, actually laugh. You would think no, but if you could create something really interesting in a direct mail, like if you have people's addresses, and so I don't know where you are on list buying and that kind of thing, but if you have people who have used your service before and you have their actual physical mailing address, sending them something in the mail that's not necessarily a solicitation, but is about something really cool, because they don't get actual mail anymore. And the 18, I'm with them all the time, the 18 to 25-year-olds, when they get like actual mail that looks really cool, they get really excited. And so that mail can be driving them to look at something on your website. It can invite them to look at this particular thing, this video that you've got, and you're getting the traffic into you.
Yeah.
Sometimes going old school actually can help you over that.
I did that kind of like half old school by just doing email marketing, because that's not, that obviously is not blocked by anything.
Right.
And I control all the content.
Right.
My content, I use Constant Contact. They don't have any problem with me doing that.
Right.
Which is definitely a challenge when you have a hard, a tough product to sell or an
Yes.
unknown product.
Right.
All these big companies control pretty much everything you guys try to share.
Right.
But I'm trying to grow my demographic. And I found it difficult with email marketing because these are already customers I already have.
Right.
So I don't know if there's other type of, growing your demographic techniques that don't involve social media or don't involve advertising.
Yeah, it's all about acquisition, and you can start thinking about list buying.
Yeah.
That's another way.
I would probably recommend, it's a little old school, but having a self-hosted forum
Yeah.
with people who, people who are gonna sign up to, if you're gonna go down the road of direct mail,
Yeah.
make your registration form include address information.
Yeah.
But then you own it, anything that's talked about there, you can see, you can moderate, but it's still under your control.
I did want to comment on back at, making sure when you're signing up for, I don't know who asked about a hosting company or where you're putting your website, I've been burned so many times, multiple times, because you build up a big website with a company that just can't support advanced, you want to do more and more advanced
Right.
things as technology grows, and sometimes those companies can't support that stuff. And when you want to grow and your website company can't grow with you, usually they just hog everything that you created and you have to start over from zero. So WordPress is fantastic because it's super dynamic, but that's definitely something, and it can cost tens of thousands of dollars to pick up.
Well, especially at the size that you're at, you definitely have to make sure the hosting supports what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but my main problem is just getting more people through non-traditional methods.
Yeah.
So just another thought on that. In terms of just providing helpful content, informational content through a blog, through your newsletters, asking for people to share that with people in their networks. It doesn't have to be advertising. You can craft this content in a way that kind of gets around the issue, I think.
Oh, yeah,
You just have to get creative with it. That's another way to, and you can still share those things on social media.
Instagram is great for that
Yeah.
type of stuff.
Yeah.
Facebook's been fine. It's just when it comes, I really want to pay somebody to advertise, and that's where.
The advertising's different because there's different advertising rules that Google has and certain things they'll allow and that they won't allow. And that's going to cut across Google, their partner network. So you might have to be more strategic about the types of places that you could actually advertise with, and then do more one-on-one relationships with those rather than trying to go through, say, the Google Display Network.
Kind of like the direct mail, like AOL style.
Well, yeah. You can
Something
have a lot of
cool,
fun with
tangible.
How do you get, when someone Googles something, how do you get your website to come up first?
That is the $1 million question.
that. So I'll just start with the part where I talked about create engaging content. That may be oversimplifying it, but actually that's really the key, is that Google cares about the content that you have that is relevant to what someone is searching for. Because in Google's world, the faster they can match your customer with you because you're helping the customer, the happier everybody is. There's a lot of technique behind it, but really good content would be my answer.
I have two questions. It seems like I remember years ago, because I used it, Hot Frog, is it? Where it will link, if you make a post on your Facebook page, it'll automatically send it over to your Twitter account. I think it's Hot Frog. Are you familiar
There's
with
a
it?
number of tools that will do
There
that.
tools
There's
that do
tools
that.
that will do that.
Can you tell me another one, is what I'm, so is there one that's
So-
like Instagram or not just Facebook to Twitter?
So I guess my question would be, are you looking to take one post and have it go everywhere?
Yes.
Or are you looking to have your Facebook post go places? And that's a real important question I'm asking, because what you're talking about is I wrote my Facebook post, and when I hit post, I don't have to think about the fact, I just know it automatically goes to Twitter and it automatically goes to over here.
That is what happens, yes.
Okay.
I'd like to have it do, but also to like Instagram.
Okay, so from social media best practice,
Don't
that
do
would
that.
not be what you should do.
Oh.
Yeah, because basically the Twitter, so each of these platforms are different audiences. People who are on Facebook are not necessarily on Twitter.
Okay.
People use Twitter differently than they use Facebook. And people who use Instagram differently than they use some of these other things. And so that content might need to take slightly different form depending on the platform you're using. Now, there are tools like Hootsuite is one.
Hootsuite, Buffer,
Buffer.
Social Pilot,
There's like Sprout Social's another one that you pay for, that allow you to schedule content across platforms, and then so you could have the same kind of content, an announcement of something, but you could say that I want to send it out on Friday on Facebook, and you have one interface where you put all that stuff, and then it kind of goes out for you.
The other thing to keep in mind is both shelf life. The average tweet is what, 13 minutes? After 13 minutes, no one's ever going to see it again. So if you're posting something that is going to happen tonight and you're posting it at 8 a.m., why bother?
Well, when I first started this was 10 years ago, and nobody even had
Right, yeah,
So
yeah.
my Twitter account was like probably one of 10 in Vermont.
Yeah.
So I
Along
didn't
with
know a big
mine,
audience
probably.
Anyway, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure that I was hitting them both. If I was doing one, that it was going to, just because I wanted, if the people that did have it would get something.
The other thing to keep in mind is prime time. You know, posting, I will use a very girly reference, Pinterest. Does anybody here use Pinterest? Okay. When is the prime time to post on Pinterest?
It depends.
On weekends. Do you post on Facebook on the weekends for your business? No, generally not. It's not really where your audience is going to be. So you have to know when is the best time to post. So using those automatic tools may not be the best method. Now, having said that, if you use Buffer or Social Pilot, you can set up a schedule. You can say,
Hootsuite will do that too, yeah.
I want my tweets to go Monday through Friday between 3 and 4 p.m. And then you put it in queue. So you make a post, you schedule it, I'll do it on Monday. Oh, you already posted something Monday? It'll schedule for Tuesday. You can do that, and you can set up all those different schedules for those different platforms. Now, when it comes to Instagram's did a little different. Instagram's terms of service require you to post from your mobile device. So if you use Hootsuite, which integrates with it, you can schedule it in Hootsuite, then your phone will go off, and you have to go in and actually manually post it from your phone. Buffer is the same way, Social Pilot's the same way. There is a company out there called Grum, GRUM.co. They actually let you schedule a post for Instagram the way that we would normally think about it. You put the photo, you put the text, you say I want to go at this time and schedule, and it doesn't involve your mobile phone. I'm not exactly sure that is a violation of their terms, but they've been around for a while. So.
Yeah, they say that they've gotten around that. I don't 100% trust it, so.
I use it.
Yeah,
And
I've
works,
used it, yeah.
But, you know, whether it's really a violation of
Yeah.
terms or not.
Right.
And the only other thing that I would also caution people about is all these social tools, they're being run by algorithms now. I've been at it a long time, and there is no guarantee because you posted something that anybody is connected to you is going to see that content unless they have interacted with you in a meaningful way in the past. So just because I have liked your Facebook page does not mean I am going to see anything you ever post. Just because I follow you on Twitter does not mean I am going to see anything you post. My sister and I are friends on Facebook. I hardly ever see her stuff because I don't like all of her stuff. I don't comment on all of her stuff. And then suddenly I start to comment on one thread of stuff, and suddenly I start seeing her stuff again, right? So unless people are engaging with your content in these particular tools, the algorithm says, oh, you don't want to see that, so I'm not going to show it to you anymore. So keep that in mind, which is why the advertising part comes in.
Yes. Yeah.
I struggle with knowing what to analyze and what's important and how to learn that. I know Google Analytics and Facebook has analytic tools for Facebook advertising, and there's other Google tools. Where would you recommend I start, and how would I learn?
Okay.
It depends on what you want to try, on what your goals are.
Right. Okay, so, right, so part of it, if the goal of your website is to sell stuff, then when people come to your website, are you selling stuff, right? If your goal of your website is for people to donate, is that happening? And if it's not happening, then the analytics tools can kind of tell you what's going on there, potentially. There are several different ways to learn Google Analytics. It is complex and overwhelming. Super cool and awesome.
Start small.
Start
Yeah.
small.
Very
There is actually Google Analytics Academy, which is actually a really nice platform with some videos. It's run by Justin Catroni, and I don't know if people here know who Justin is. Justin actually lives in Vermont. He happens to be the Google evangelist for analytics. Yeah, I know, like small world, right? And so he's done these, which is really great and really helpful. There is an analytics certification. I don't necessarily recommend that for everybody in this room, but you can certainly go that far if you want to. And then there's other resources. I feel like I'm plugging this a lot, but I actually have a class in it at Champlain College in the fall. And so we learn how to use that and use businesses and get a handle on that. And so, Chrissy, if you don't mind me picking on you, Chrissy's taking my advanced digital marketing class now as an audit. So that's one way to either look at, I think UVM has a continuing professional studies or continuing online education digital marketing kind of certificate thing that they do online. So that might be a good resource. So those are some places online, that trusted sources that I would say, start small though. Don't dive in all the way. Yeah.
You talked about getting interns to help you with stuff. How do you access them?
So the easiest, fast way to do that is I've got business cards out there. So if you're interested, grab my business card, send me an email, and I can connect you with our career services folks. Yeah. So I think we had some hands over here. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, my market is probably marketing communication specialist, female, age 25 to 40. Is there any study done for attention span, number of links before you lose someone, where it becomes difficult to navigate your way based on the amount of options? Because it's not easily defined.
I think in general, people lose interest really fast these days. In general, the attention span is seconds. And the more choices you give somebody, the less likely they are to make a decision at all.
Now, is it the homepage that's going to get them to go further?
Not everybody's going to land on your homepage. That's something really important to remember, is that most people, when they come into your website, they're not going to land on your homepage. So every page has to be really clear, what's in it for me, and what do you want them to do next.
I just wanted to make a comment when you're talking about data gathering. I found for the business I'm in that I use the hub for the outreach into different companies. They're great for letting you know the content of, like, say, Facebook, how many people interacted, how many people did it get out to. Question I wanted to ask you guys about storefronts. I got a storefront on my webpage, but I want to make it look a little bit better, not so old school. Is there like websites that can help, give it a fresh face?
What are you running your store on?
Right now, we got our domain name, but it's also linked with Facebook and, everything else is all linked and is driving to just our regular .com page.
So on your website, do you have, like, how is your store set up? Is it using a particular store software, e-commerce software?
Everything goes through Square.
Through Square, okay. So so there's no confusion. Square is completely different from Squarespace. Square is for collecting payments and invoicing and that kind of thing. So without knowing a lot of the specifics for your store itself, there are lots of options for storefronts. Something like Shopify is a really good option to have a full-fledged storefront. You can have a store in WordPress. You have to know more about how your website is set up and what you're looking to do, but there are always ways to improve. And you don't always have to rebuild it either.
I have a boating accessory and service business. 20% of my business is international. I sell very little to Vermont. And granted, we have a small state here, but we do have a lot of boaters. And I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to reach out to Vermonters, and there's a lot of Canadians on the lake in the summer as well. So I'm trying to figure out how do I tap into that marketplace locally without spending a lot of money, and what's the best way to do that? My demographic is, people 35 and up, people who spend a lot of time on their boat. And, so it's an older audience compared to some that were discussed here. So I'm trying to get a better feel for how to reach out to those folks. I'm looking, a lot of my customers are on Facebook, so I'm looking at doing some geo-targeting and possibly on Facebook this summer. And I'm working with a Canadian company because I want to reach out to
That's
the
good.
Quebecois.
Yeah,
So,
right.
I'm looking for other ideas or things.
Yeah. So one of the things when I talk about creating engaging content, Google is biasing towards those sites that create content that helps people find or solve a problem. I'm going to make this up, but blog post content around 5 top ways to get your boat ready for whatever you're getting it ready for, because I don't boat, so for the spring. And then that kind of content, which is then content you could share on Facebook to get people really excited, would be optimized in search so that when people are Googling to solve a problem. So that's one of the reasons why I talked about, well, what problems are you helping people solve? How are you adding value? When people are searching, they're not just searching boats in Vermont. They're going, how do I get my boat ready for the spring? And so if you've written really good content, your content can rise to that, and then they will see you as an expert, and then that's that long process of building content that people will actually come back to. Post like that's evergreen content, so it keeps coming back every spring. You write it once, and then people start looking for it, and it keeps coming back again and again, right? And that's the kind of ways I think that you can really do some really interesting work in that kind of space.
Which form is an advertising meeting? Any feedback on it?
There, you can pay, you can be in their paid section
Right, in the
for,
paid
is that what you're
section,
talking about?
it's got a feedback. If you're looking at $700 to $800
Mm-hmm.
For either 4-week
Mm-hmm.
or a 6-week.
If your customers are reading that, then it would be a worthy investment.
But it's
That's,
going to take a gamble of spending that much money
Yes, it
to
will.
find
Yes.
out.
But the beautiful thing is if you write your ad the right way in there and you're sending people somewhere, you can track that. So if you give them a link to a landing page on your website that's specific for those folks, then you can do a small buy as a test. You're gonna rate, people are gonna see it anyway. How many people are then gonna click? And then you can see the value. So if 30 people in Front Porch Forum click, and 2 people buy something from you, did you just make up the money? Or do you need 6 people to buy? Or like, how are you gonna pay for the cost of that test? And then you'll see if there's value to it. Yeah, right here.
I'm just getting into electronic marketing, and I have a friend who's going to design a website for me on GoDaddy. Is that?
domain name registration is fine with GoDaddy. I would never put a website on
No.
GoDaddy, ever.
Yeah,
They're one of the worst.
Yeah, I've run into that with the student work where they've worked with clients who had a GoDaddy experience, and the students in the class project helped move them from GoDaddy to actually Bluehost and get actually better set up because GoDaddy gave them a package that was just not good. So I don't recommend it at all.
If you're looking for a hosting company recommendation, one that, there's a lot of junky
Yeah.
hosts out there now. It's gotten really bad this past year especially. But WP Engine is what they call managed hosting. It's $29 a month is their base package, which is enough for most people. If you want to put a WordPress website up and you want reliable hosting that is not as likely to get hacked and all of that as some of the others.